everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka MBT, and we are back with another ban list. Okay, how's that for an intro? So what's going on today? Well, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden and Limited list has been updated. We've been waiting for this update for a long time, but not for the reasons you might think. Usually, when we are champing at the bit for an update to the Forbidden and Limited list, it's because the format's bad. But at present, Yummy Mitsurugi, Vanquish Soul Canine, and Branded Dracotail form 3 pins of a triangle format that's actually pretty interesting. All these decks are fun to play with and against. They interact in very interesting, layered ways, and there's a lot of opportunities for counterplay. So why are we banning cards at all? Well, simply put, we know what's coming next. The next 6 months of Yu-Gi-Oh! Releases have kind of already happened in the OCG or been spoiled, and we know that they aren't going to be competitive versus the decks that are already good. So a ban list was sort of inevitable, just so the half-life of existing strategies would finally expire. And as a result, I'm expecting monumental hits to those 3 decks to pave the way for a bunch of new stuff releasing in Burst Protocol. I obviously can't do a totally blind reaction because I can see Herald Habakiri Droll and Stake Your Soul, but in terms of what I am looking for on this upcoming list, my number one want is hits to Branded Dracotail. That deck is going to be absolutely unstoppable in the upcoming metagame, if nothing is done about it. I'd like to see some of the floodgates kind of shaved off the edges of the format. Things like Anti-Spell Fragrance are still seeing a lot of play, despite the fact that it's a 1. I don't know why they don't just put it to 0, and obviously, I really want Herald banned. It was really frustrating to see it limited for the purposes of preventing Yummy Mitsurugi from getting to the Mitsurugi line as part of their mainline combo, having to choose between either making Herald mid combo or as part of their end board, just for duelists to figure out in 5 minutes you can use the Sorrow Cat to do it anyway. So, I guess let's see what's going on. I'll try and give you an overview of what it's going to mean for the format, and we'll get it going. First and foremost, we've got the bans. Barrier Statue of the Torn Forbidden. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I thought that had already happened. It's just whack-a-mole with respect to the barrier statues. Some are more playable and searchable than others, and eventually all of them will be banned. None of them are particularly interesting, and I'm glad that they are being hit. Torrent specifically was part of a bunch of water strategies, like I know Mermail could get to it, so it is important to take this one out. That's why I thought it had already been done, to be completely honest. All right, well, Cyberdark Impact and its consequences continue to plague us to this day. Malice Q Whitebinder is an interesting one. That is, I believe, the first Whitebinder ban. Malice is still a playable deck in the TCG, and it is going to just inevitably get better as Cyberse extenders sort of trickle out. In Master Duel, they banned Red Ransom, which seems like the obvious hit, but the deck is still playable in some capacity. Whitebinder actually was a piece of supplementary support for the engine, revealed a couple of days after the first wave. So the deck was always able to play without it, but obviously most of its power is concentrated in Whitebinder. I like this hit a lot. I think it does, regrettably for the Malice pilots in the audience, kind of kill Malice. I'm willing to be wrong about that, but at minimum it means that it's going to have a really tough time interacting with an opponent in its usual layered kind of way, where you'd like summon Whitebinder, banish relevant cards, then bring them back. Herald of the Arclight, I think we all saw this coming. This card can't remain legal for a number of reasons. It's a stupid fucking macro floodgate, but of course also it makes any deck that can get to a 4 able to do the Mitsurugi line, which is an annoying type of recursion for decks, and also those Mitsurugi decks can then leverage the Mitsurugi monsters as starters, courtesy of something like Zombie Vampire, or I guess if you're down bad, Camellias in the Yummy decks specifically. Harpy's Featherstorm is also on here. That's great. I mean, that's really good. The fewer trap cards that say you win the game, the better. This card was seeing pretty substantial play in a reasonable number of decks. Obviously, its most famous application of late was in Ryziel, which is still around, though not particularly popular. But any deck can theoretically integrate a winged beast into their end board in order to just win the game automatically if an opponent like plays into a triple tactics thrust or something. So I'm happy to see that gone as well. Next up. Okay, Labubu Limited. That's a good call. I'm going to be completely honest, that is a good call. When it comes to the Dracotails that I want to see fewer of, I think a lot of people are clamoring for the Femina limit, and I really disagree with that. I think the cards that enable you to play on your opponent's first turn while you are on the draw are really important, and Femina, of course, is chief among them. Malulu is like the normal summon that has the most power concentrated in it, which seems weird to say because of the existence of YUGIOH, but like Malulu really just like smooths over a bunch of rough edges, especially in hands where you get interacted with. And with respect to the Draco Tail, any name change is going to be devastating for the deck. YUGIOH. This one seems kind of weird because K9 is definitely the worst of the top 3 decks, but YUGIOH is such an independently powerful card that I do think it needs to be hit. It is kind of absurd that you can go like YUGIOH into Lantern into YUGIOH. Like, that's just ridiculous. Holly Suda one is a little frustrating. I feel like I just said you really don't want to be hitting the cards that allow you to interact on your opponent's turn 0, but I won't deny that Holly Sue is definitely crazy strong and like clearly the outlier in terms of the Vanquish Soul line. Yummy Snatchy is big. Yummy Snatchies, that's a huge hit. Wow. There's a lot you can do to permanently remove Yummy Snatchy now. There's a lot you can do to ensure that your opponent isn't able to cycle through multiple if you're able to interact with them on their turn. That's like a really big hit. I mean, I'm willing to be wrong about this, but that is a big ass hit. Ame no Habakiri no Mitsurugi. I'm actually surprised it wasn't banned. Obviously, it can't be. They're releasing, I think in March, a modern deck list that includes Habakiri. They've shown it in the promotional materials. But this card is just everything for this archetype. And to be clear, at 1, it is still quite good. You're not going to open it all the time, but you triple up on prayers, you'll always be able to find it. There are ways to get rituals into your hand. I know Jeff Jones was playing Ashlan in K9 for that one event. I mean, like Herald of the Arclight, people will find ways to get this into grip. Unlike Herald of the Arclight, it won't also be attached to a negate, which is good. A case for K9 is funny because a lot of these decks were only playing 1 anyway, but it was creeping up to 2 and 3 way, way more frequently in the past couple of months. And importantly, if you hit YUGIOH, you do also have to hit Case for K9 because Case for K9 is just a really good card that enables you to search any K9. So if you're getting any of the K9s that don't do anything on turn 0, it doesn't matter if you put those to 1 because you're just putting them to 4. It makes sense. It's weird to be like, this is a card that wasn't always played at 3, but it should be limited. And Ketu Draco Tail, really, really happy about. This, of course, is an ever available card provided you can get a fusion off, just because of course the Draco Tails set a Draco Tail card from deck, but it means an opponent with like a pop can interact with it in a way that they can't just set another Ketu. I do like the fact that a card that has this much power concentrated in it is only available at 1. Like, you're not going to have to deal with it every turn. I mean, you will if they're able to get the traps off, but they won't if you stop their Ketu. That's good. That's really good. I'm happy with that. And there is also another really powerful spell card in Draco Tail already. Okay, moving on. So this one is weird. I hope this forecasts a ban of this card. There has definitely been a move by the player base to hate this card, and I gotta say I understand it. As someone who plays a lot of Genesis, right now the best sell for Genesis is it's a format that doesn't include Droll and Lockbird. I feel like so many games I play, despite the fact that the format is good, feel decided by this card. And it's also really irritating. It doesn't come up too much, but it's also really irritating that it is also called by the grave in some situations. Like, if you're playing a deck that doesn't need to search a bunch of stuff and your opponent drolls you, you just wait for the one thing you do need to search. Sorry, to rewind. If they Fuwalos you, you wait for the one thing you do need to search, let them draw off the Fuwalos, then droll, then you just pop off using your extra deck. I don't like this card at all. I would like to see it gone forever. I mean, you know, what else can I say? And finally, the Unlimbs. Oh, a lot going on here. Collapse Serpent, fantastic. Greffer, totally meaningless. Wyverburster, also fine. Raisin. Wow. That's a big deal. So, Vanquish Soul Raisin, and of course I can see the Stake Your Soul as well, were cards that were hit in order to bring Vanquish Soul K9, then the top strategy, more in line with the rest of the decks. And a lot of people think that they sort of overcorrected, that the deck was being unfairly hit because of its position at the World Tournament, and for that reason, the deck felt like the less powerful of the top 3 strategies in this past metagame. Stake Your Soul and Raisin being unlimited makes the deck feel a lot better, I'll be honest. I would trade 2 copies of Holisu for 2 copies of Raisin and 2 copies of Stake Your Soul. And I think also probably makes Vanquish Soul Canine the moving forward best canine build, but for the unlimited of Crystron inclusion, another card hit specifically to bring the canine decks to heel, just to find out that they weren't particularly good on their own. Crystron also was independently a really powerful deck during the previous format, but it felt like one of those decks that was like 4th best in its meta and was not a problem. It was always kind of frustrating that they hit it. Zoodiac Trident to 3, totally fine. Snatch Steal to 3, totally fine. Change of Heart to 3 might matter. Change of Heart is a really good card. It might be one of those situations where like people weren't playing it at 1, but they will play it at 3 out of the board. Kind of like Raigeki when people were playing Raigeki for 3, and still are in a lot of situations. We'll see, of course. I think that effect is totally okay. It's just funny to tell people like, yeah, Mind Control was like really scary for like decades, and now we just unbanned Change of Heart a couple lists later. So what do I think is going to be good in the wake of this ban list? Well, obviously the cynical asshole in me wants to say this ban list was stem to stern built to sell Burst Protocol. And to be clear, the decks in Burst Protocol are almost there. There's a lot of strategies. Radiant Typhoon comes to mind. Assault Mode is not coming to mind that will be playable in a metagame that abides this list. That said, these hits could have been bigger. You know, this trade of Yokel and Holisu for Raisin and Stake Your Soul definitely makes me think the Vanquish Soul Canine is still around. I mean, Ketu and Labubu are huge hits, but Branded Dracotail is going to get a huge buff in the upcoming set. Yummy, Snatchy, and Herald of the Arclight ban, along with the Ami no Habakiri no Mitsurugi hits, are big, but don't change the fact that you can still do the normal setup line for Yummy. It's just a little less resilient. I think what we're seeing here is Konami is taking a reserved approach to hitting the top 3 decks, refusing to rotate them, as some people were fearing, that there was like a half-life associated with these decks, at which point Konami would say, buy the new stuff. They're saying, you can keep playing your old deck, we just want it brought to the power level that the Burst Protocol decks can interact with it. And of course, we will see that pan out in the coming weeks. Not to plug my own stuff, but we're doing Burst Protocol decks already on 10-minute testing. We'll be doing the Burst Protocol Genesis lists in the 100-point playtesting, and you'll see how these strategies stack up against the nerfed versions of these decks. I think that they are going to be fine. So in summation, you know, I already felt like the metagame was fine, that the only thing that was driving the need for a list was uncertainty surrounding the 300th or a need to decrease the power level for the purpose of selling new product. And I think they did what I wanted, which is both understood that the power level of the decks needed to come down so Bipro decks could be playable, but also left those decks legal, which is great for people who have already invested. I am, of course, a little disappointed to see a bunch of the annoying-ass floodgates survive another list, but I'm also excited to see that some of them did get hit. You know, Harpy's Featherstorm Barrier Statue of the Torrent is not nothing. You know, it at least signals a willingness to eventually hit all of these cards. And this Droll and Lockbird semi is also not nothing. It hopefully signals an end to the bird and boy. That's all I have to say. I will see you tomorrow for TMT, probably on a new deck. And bye. Goodbye. See you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. What did you think about the ban list?